What up, what up? I'm Aaron Yara, and this is the Effective Nerdcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Effective Nerdcast. I hope everyone is being safe out there, everybody's doing well. I know things have been getting crazy with the coronavirus outbreak. I've been working from home, and I've been trying not to leave the house as much as possible. As I said in the last episode, it does get kind of lonely, or it just throws our lives upside down for a lot of us who have to leave have to leave the house often. But I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone is finding a way to stay productive and take care of their mental health during this time. It can be really trying for a lot of people, including myself. Today I want to talk about 13 brainstorming techniques. Any great project starts with a great idea, and today I wanted to discuss ways where we can craft and generate those ideas. Brainstorming is a really important part of the creative process. For a lot of people, it's the beginning of the creative process. It can be difficult to generate ideas just off the top of your head. So I have a few strategies that I use that I want to tell you about. The first thing I want to talk about is writing down all of your ideas. I personally use Evernote as a home screen on my phone to write down my ideas. And anything that pops in my head, I try to take a note of it and get the idea down. I know a lot of times when we have a good idea, we'll say, "Oh, it's such a good idea that I'll never forget it," and then 45 minutes later, it's gone. And that really is just the test of it to our own egos as creators, where we think that we won't forget any great thing that we've created, but that's just not true. At least not for me. So I make a habit of writing down every idea that I have. Whether it's good or bad, it just goes into a general ideas list that I then process later when I need an idea for a new project. And also just having access to a notepad or some sort of note-taking app at all times will make sure that when your good idea does strike, you have a way to get it down. I used to carry notebooks. I have stacks of filled out notebooks in my house from over the years, like dating back to high school. I did over the past few years make the transfer over to more digital note taking, but still the same concept. Number two is that there are no bad ideas. This is something that I feel like keeps a lot of creators from brainstorming, is that they feel as though the ideas that they put down aren't that great, or they'll do a list of brainstorming and then just scrap it because they feel like all the ideas are bad. However, as creators, we are constantly growing and evolving and learning. So an idea that may seem bad now, may be good 6 months down the line or a year down the line. You never know how your own tastes are going to change or your own style is going to change. Also, you may come up with an idea later that is going to pair very well with the simple idea that you think is bad now. And you never know when those connections are going to happen. So just keep everything written down, like I said in the first step, because you never know when a former idea is going to pop up and be something amazing. Number three is to combine ideas. An idea by itself may not sound that great, but when you have a long list of ideas, making different combinations of the different ideas may come up with something great. For example, say you were trying to make a comic book, and on your brainstorming list you have Battle Arena and you have Talking Oranges. Now, each of those, you have Annoying Orange for Talking Oranges, and for Battle Arena, you have Fortnite and different games like that. But if you combine them together, have a Battle Arena of Talking Oranges. Now, that could be a funny comic book or a comic strip to make. So, my advice here is to make your brainstorming list and then do every combination of every idea on the list just to see if there are certain combos that you had never thought of that kind of work well together. that's the way that a lot of good ideas can be created. That way, you'll end up with a whole secondary list of ideas potentially if you do this. Number four is probably my favorite brainstorming strategy. I don't know if there's an actual word or a terminology for this, but personally, I call it the synonym game. This involves taking your brainstorming list and running it through a thesaurus just to see what it comes up with. For example, if you're writing a song and you have an idea for a song called I Hate William, that may not sound like a great song. However, Ill Will for Bill, that's a way better song title. That may get your creative juices flowing more than I Hate William does. So, what I like to do is take every word, or if I brainstorm just a list of single words, or if I have a list of multiple word ideas, I just take each word, run it through the thesaurus, and then see what works for me. See if anything kind of pops in my head when I look at the synonym listings. And that's something that I haven't heard of a lot of other people doing. I know it's a kind of a trick I picked up from web design, where when you're coming up with ideas of topics to research for a web page, you can look up synonyms and then look and see if there are other web pages under the synonyms. And that's something that you do on like the technical side of your website, but I kind of took that concept and brought it over to the brainstorming side and the creative side. And I think it works really well. I've had a lot of good luck with using synonyms to generate more solid ideas off of my initial brainstorming list. Number five is to make a chart or a map. This works well if you're brainstorming for a specific project that you already have in mind. Say you're writing a novel and you're trying to brainstorm how the plot is going to work, or if you're going to make an album and you want to see how all the songs are going to fit together, or if you need to make a lot of songs around the same concept, if you're making a concept album. Finding relationships between the different items on your brainstorming list can be really important. Just the fact that you're viewing the connections between the different ideas can really help get your mind going in a certain direction that will help you progress in your project. I wouldn't suggest doing this for every brainstorming session. Sometimes you just need to dump your brain out and just get all the ideas out. But if you already know the project you're working on and you already know the topic or kind of the synopsis of what you want to do, it doesn't hurt to brainstorm and map all the connections between all your brainstorming ideas out. You may see some things that you weren't able to see before because it was just the list and not a chart or like a kind of like a mind map. There are a lot of pieces of software out here that'll help you do it, but you can even just do it on paper and just draw lines between the different concepts. Number six is to ask for help. As people, we all have our own biases and prejudices that affect the way that we think. So if we're making a creative project and we're doing a brainstorm list, there may be certain concepts or certain ideas that our brain just automatically locks out. And it's just because we're people, we're not perfect, our brains aren't perfect. We have all of our life experiences that kind of build up against the way that we think. So there are certain ideas that you just will never think of because of the way your life's been up to this point, because of the way your thinking patterns have been up to this point. So having another person to help you brainstorm can be really beneficial, especially if you already kind of have a concept in mind that you can tell the person about, and then they can just help you spit out a bunch of ideas. And they may see things that you don't or you couldn't see before, or they have different they kind of have a different style of the way they generate ideas, and it meshes with yours or it fills in the gaps of yours. Number seven is to play to your strengths, especially if you're just at the bare bones brainstorming stage where you don't really have a project in mind, or even if you don't have a medium in mind. Make sure that your ideas are kind of doable, or at least will play to your strengths, like I said. For example, since I'm a blogger, I'm a much better writer than I am an artist. If I'm coming up with a project that I want to work on, I probably won't make it as drawing heavy as I would have it be writing heavy. I'm also I'm decent at producing music. I could make a musical project or a writing project, or you write lyrics for the music. Since drawing, in my opinion, is one of my weaker skills, I wouldn't write a whole list of full comic book series ideas. That if that kind of makes sense, it kind of feels weird saying it, but just having I wouldn't stunt yourself by doing this, but I would keep your strengths in mind and keep the medium that you want to work in mind. Similar to number 7, number 8 is to keep your scope in mind. We have a lot of ideas that may be too big for us to accomplish where we are in our current life. For example, we could have certain financial restraints. Why a lot of people make comic books or they write books, because they really want to make TV shows or movies, but the investment to do that is so much larger than just writing something and putting it out. So it's important to make sure that the ideas that you're writing down for your projects are practical. And you don't have to do that as you're brainstorming. You can just do like a mind dump and just put everything down and then maybe cross off some of the ideas that aren't practical, or take the ideas that aren't practical right now and put them on a to look at later kind of list. But you don't want to be wasting your time with ideas that you're never going to do, or you're never going to, or aren't able to be accomplished at the current time. Now, I know I had said previously to write everything down, which I still agree with. This is more of a strategy for refining your brainstorming list after you've already did the initial, pouring your mind out and emptying your head. Number 9 is another strategy for refining your initial brainstorming list, and that's to break down every idea. What I like to do is take every idea on my brainstorm list and break it down into as many of its basic concepts as you can. So, for example, say you wanted to make a web page, and you have a brainstorm list of different web pages you can make, or different blog posts that you can make. And one of them is cosplay, for example. I would take that and you could break it down into the convention, kind of showing off photo shoot kind of side of cosplay. And then there's also the crafting side, where you need to learn sewing and painting and how to get all these materials together. Then there's also the, say, cultural side of it, and there's the financial side of it. Breaking every idea on your brainstorm list down into its basic concepts will generate more ideas. Going back to the other things we were talking about, those broken down ideas can then be ran through a thesaurus, or they could be combined with other ideas. I guess in general what I'm getting at here is, when a lot of people brainstorm, they just come up with as many ideas as they can and write them down, and then that's it. And then they say, all right, this is my list, and I need to pick one of these. Where there are actually a lot of strategies to take that initial list and manipulate it into hundreds and hundreds of more ideas. And using each of these different strategies that we've been talking about so far will help you manipulate those ideas and combine them and just kind of mash them up in a way where you'll have, 10 times the amount of ideas that you initially wrote down. Number 10 is to group similar ideas together. This is it is similar to making a map or a chart, but instead of showing relations between multiple ideas like a chart would, grouping them together would kind of show you how they might come together in a single project. Just it's more of a loose relation than like a mind map or a flow chart would be. So for example, if you write down about a story that you want to write, and you say, oh, I want it to be science fiction or good versus evil, and then a family story, and you have all these other ideas. If you group science fiction, good versus evil, and family story, I mean, that's basically what Star Wars is, like, down at its core. If you take a bunch of ideas off of your brainstorming list and kind of clump them together, and then kind of try to come up with an idea based off of the group instead of off of single items, you may come up with a more complex idea that may be more fulfilling to start creating, such as the plot of a story. I think this works really well with. Number 11 is to not try too hard. I know I know that seems counterintuitive, seeing as I'm telling you all these different things that I think you should be doing when you're brainstorming. One thing I notice when people brainstorm is that they sit down and they're like, I got nothing. And a lot of it is because they're kind of psyching themselves out, and they're not really opening up their mind to just let the ideas start coming out. They're trying to actively think of ideas, where I'm kind of against that. I like to just open the mind gate and just let everything come out, and then after everything is out, just then deal with the list after that. Where people want their brainstorming list to be perfect on the first try, or they want it to only have really good ideas. So before they even write down what they just thought, the idea that they just thought of, they've already thought of 10 ways in their head to not write it down, or 10 reasons why that idea won't work. And I'm really against that. I think you should just get everything down and then start making decisions when you can see everything. And you can kind of, similar to like writer's block, you can kind of get brainstorming block, which is, it can be detrimental if you need a new idea for a project. I know a lot of us have endless amounts of ideas, but brainstorming isn't always just about finding new ideas, it's also about refining ideas. I think that we can kind of get into our own heads a little too much sometimes, and it's better to just put it out there and then work on it later. So don't try too hard, don't psych yourself out. Just kind of close your eyes, open your mind, and just write down whatever comes in your head. All right, we got 2 left. Number 12 is to take breaks. Just like any other creative process, it's easy to get burnt out or fatigued or to lose focus after, I don't know, like a half hour for a lot of us. I don't know about you guys, but I really like using what's called the Pomodoro technique, which is where I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's essentially you work for 25 minutes, take 5 minutes off, work for 25 minutes, take 5 minutes off, and then after you do that, I believe it's 4 times, so a cycle of 2 hours. Then I think you take a half-hour break, and then you go back to it. I mean, the minutes don't really matter. It's just the fact that you're doing short bursts of work with short breaks and short bursts of work with short breaks. And I find that really keeps me productive. I even, when I take a break, I don't take a break like go watch TV for 5 minutes. I usually do a chore around the house. And I usually do a chore around the house or something that doesn't really take up my mental capacity. So I'll write for 25 minutes, and then I'll do the dishes, and then I'll write for 25 minutes, and then I'll sweep the floor, so on and so forth. And then that way, after a few hour chunk, I have a lot of my creative work done, and my house is clean. So you kind of kill 2 birds there. But I think when it comes to brainstorming, taking breaks is just as important as taking breaks anywhere else in the creative process. You can get frustrated when you can't generate ideas as fast as you like, or if you kind of just have something stuck in your head that you can't seem to get out on paper, it can be frustrating and tiring as well. You can also you could have more ideas in your head, but you just are fatigued from writing it down and just using all that mental power to generate ideas that you just need a little break. I would suggest doing a brainstorming session, taking a few minute break, and then sit down and doing another brainstorming session, because sometimes what shows up on the second list is actually better than what's on the first list. And it's kind of like you gave yourself that first period to warm up and to kind of get all the forefront ideas out of your head, and then the second time you come around, your brain's rolling already, and you kind of get those deeper ideas that are kind of in the back of your mind. All right, for the last one, number 13, is keep your lifestyle in mind. This is similar to the previous idea of keeping your scope in mind. Not only do you want to keep the scope of your project in mind, like I had said previously, you also want to keep your lifestyle in mind. They are very similar, but if you think the scope of a project is the resources and the time and the money that you have to commit to one project, where when I say lifestyle, I also mean your entire life based around it. Because you don't want to be picking a project that'll distance you from your friends and family, or if it'll have financial consequences that could hurt your loved ones or yourself or your family. You don't want to be neglecting other responsibilities in your life. So when you figure out the scope of the project, always keep your lifestyle in mind, and that should translate to your brainstorm list too. So after you have all your ideas down, I'm sure there are a few that you can rule out just based on your lifestyle alone, or find ways to rework them where they would work for you if you really do like the idea. Alright, and that is 13 brainstorming techniques. I think brainstorming is really important. It's an important part of the creative process and a way to continue to generate ideas for your work and for your creativity. I hope you enjoyed all 13 reasons. If you have any strategies for brainstorming that I didn't talk about here, I would love to hear them because I'm always looking for new ways to brainstorm. And also, if you need any help or if you're having any problems with your brainstorming process, feel free to reach out. Alright, until next time, peace. Thank you for listening to the Effective Nerdcast. For more information on how to step up your work, please visit effectivenerd.com. You can find us on social media at effectivenerd. You can also email us at effectivenerd@gmail.com. Effective Nerdcast is hosted by Aaron Yara. The theme song was created by MC Graffiti.